Welcome back to another episode of Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Michael Sullivan from United States Capitol Police. He has almost 31 years experience in law enforcement. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So welcome to the show, Chief Sullivan. Thank you so much for being here.
Paige, thanks for the invite.
Of course. I've been looking forward to this conversation because I know that wellness is something that's really important to you and it's a priority for you personally, but also organizationally. But I was hoping that we can start with a little bit of background for those who don't know you. How did you get started in law enforcement and what did your almost 31 years look like for you?
I started back in 1994 after I finished my degree at the University of Louisville in police administration. And it was something that I found that I was very interested in as I went through school and joined the Louisville Police Department at the time. It was the Louisville Division of Police. And it was probably the best decision of my life. Looking back at those years and the nearly 25 years that I spent in Louisville, I went through the ranks, got to do just about everything that you can do in a major city police department, and made it to deputy chief, number 2 in charge of the department. And then I had an opportunity to go to Baltimore City, Maryland as the deputy commissioner of operations, which was a very challenging job. The crime fight in Baltimore is real, and it's something that is a real challenge and really tasks you with being focused on fighting crime and connecting to communities and just because of the pace of that city. And it taught me so much. Putting yourself in that environment, being willing to put yourself places that other people aren't willing to go because of the challenge was probably the best decision I made in my entire career, and spent almost 4 years with Baltimore as a deputy commissioner. And then I had the opportunity to go to Phoenix back in 2022 as the interim chief. They were under a pattern practice investigation at the time with the Department of Justice. And given my background and my experience that I had from Baltimore was the reason I was chosen to move into Phoenix and was there for the last almost 3 years, and then just joined the U.S. Capitol Police about a month and a half ago. And it's the honor of my life. I mean, I've served communities all over this country, and now I have the opportunity to serve the entire country because as the U.S. Capitol Police, we're responsible for the members of Congress. We're responsible for the people on the Capitol Hill. This venerated place called the U.S. Capitol. I pinch myself every day as I walk onto campus and I look at the U.S. Capitol and know that I'm responsible for it. It's a great responsibility. But then all of the legislative process, making sure that we make sure that that process is protected and given them the ability to go forward. So that's a little bit about me and how I got to this seat that I am right now, and just really blessed to be here.
Thank you. And for anyone who's watching the video, I think it's very apparent how much you love this career. You can see it on your face when you talk about it, just beaming. And I, again, am really looking forward to talking to you a little bit about your experience and, of course, wellness. You had told me that you were a part of the 21st Century Policing Report. Is that correct?
I was part of implementing it when I was in Louisville. So one of the things that I think was so important about that report, it looked at a lot of things that we could improve in policing, but it didn't leave out. There were 6 pillars in that report, and one of the 6 pillars was about officers' wellness and making sure that that was included in this discussion of how we get better as police organizations. And before it always seemed like police wellness was relegated to a conversation outside of everything else we can do to improve policing. It stood on an island by itself. To bring it in that conversation and put it out among all law enforcement agencies, I think was a pivotal moment. And it's really when I saw that conversation around wellness change.
Why do you think that wellness became so important to you? Was there anything that you experienced in your career that impacted you in a way where you started to look at it as something that's really imperative to be a part of an organization?
When I came on, wellness was not what I would say was a focus of the police department. Yeah, we had an athletic league. We'd play basketball. There were softball leagues that people played in, but it wasn't anything that was imperative. As a matter of fact, if you looked at many of the senior officers when I came into this profession, they always didn't look the most professional in uniform. And one of the things that we learned very quickly is people didn't have much of a retirement. You would retire from this profession, and within 5 to 7 years, people were passing away because of the stress, the shift hours, and the not taking care of yourself through this process. So, coming in, seeing that really made an imprint on me. And at a certain point in my career, I saw the stress that I was under, working shift work, not always eating the best, not always putting the best things in my body, whether it was food or nicotine or those other things that you do starting out, and realized at one point that, hey, I want to be here for my family. I want to be here beyond this career. And this career is hard. The things that we see in this career, most people shouldn't have to see. The number of homicide scenes, the number of baby deaths that I've made or that I've supervised that people have made over my career, I can't even count. And those traumas come along just a few times in most people's lives. They come daily in officers' lives. So understanding why people are our most important commodity. And if we truly believe that and we say that, we need to treat it as such. And that really comes to the heart of officer wellness.
Yeah. And I love that you said, I want to do this for my family, having a deeper why, because one of the things that I've noticed in working kind of in this wellness space for the last 8-9 years is you guys are so good at taking care of everybody else. And sometimes it's hard to take care of yourself. It's hard to have that mentality of, put the oxygen mask on first and make sure that you're taking care of yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself for your team, your organization, your family. And one of the things that I try to do is ask people, what is your wellness why? Why is it so important for you to be physically, mentally, emotionally well? And for the most part, it's for longevity and it's for the people around you, right? It's for your family. It's so that you can get to the end of this career and, be there with your kids, your grandkids, and, have a long and successful career, but also retirement. And have you ever heard the expression, if not you, then who? Have you ever heard of this?
Oh, yeah.
So in wellness, I ask the question, if not you, then for who? If you're not wanting to take care of yourself for you, then who is it for? And a lot of times when you have that deeper why, it makes it easier for you to start taking those actionable steps to, prioritize your own personal wellness.
It's one of the things that it has always driven me. And as I've gone up in leadership, obviously there's personal reasons that you want to take care of yourself, but as you go up in leadership and you're setting the example, modeling the way, and you do that in a lot of ways. And, one of the ways that you can do that is by seeing that you're willing to take care of yourself physically, but not just physically, but mentally as well. Being able to make yourself vulnerable in those situations when you have those discussions with officers that there's services out there that we have available to you in the profession today. It's not like it used to be. And that taboo's not there. And you need to take that taboo off as the leader and be willing to check in and make sure that your emotional and mental health are where they need to be to do this incredibly demanding job.
I really appreciate that you said modeling the way as a leader. What are some of the things that you have done to kind of set that example and to show people that it's okay to take care of yourself and it's normal? It's not weird or woo-woo, breaking that stigma and setting that example for everyone who works with you.
Yeah, and I think we've done a lot better as a profession. One of the things that I do, and I do every morning here, and I'm blessed here. I talk about being at the Capitol, right? Yeah. And every morning I get in early, spend a little bit of time in the gym, and then I go for a run or a walk around this incredible campus. And as I take off and I run around the U.S. Capitol and walk on or get onto the National Mall, and you can see the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, just that's your backdrop in the background. And then you walk back onto campus, and I can't tell you that I run into dozens of our officers every morning, and greet them, and they see me out there taking care of myself. I think that probably does more than any one thing that's out there to do that. But it's something that I've always enjoyed doing. I was a bike patrol officer back in the day, which I always say was one of the best jobs that you can ever have doing this career, because you get to do what you did when you were a kid. You get to ride a bike, and you get to go play cops and robbers. And I got to do that for a number of years, and it was one of my favorite positions that I got to do. And and you've seen that change. I talked about how when I came on, you saw a lot of people that were out of shape at the end of their career. You don't see that as much anymore. You see people that are taking care of themselves, and we make sure that we have facilities that afford people the opportunity to be able to go and take care of themselves if they want to do that at work, or enter into partnerships with facilities outside the police department, for those opportunities to be available as well.
Well, I think what I heard, as far as what you do for yourself, and I agree, I think that is, as leadership, if you're showing that you're willing to do it, then other people are going to make that more of a priority for themselves. I think that there's always this kind of watching, like I think everyone's kind of watching you to have permission for what to do, and if you are not taking care of yourself as the chief, then they're like, well, why would I take care of myself if they're not taking care of themselves? So for you to be visible and showing like, hey, I'm doing this because I think it's important, then it makes, it sets that standard and makes it okay for everybody else to also do that. But the things that you were telling me that kind of stuck out, you going out and moving your body, that's physical wellness. But being mindful and looking at your surroundings and kind of being in the moment, that's mental wellness. And then having a sense of gratitude for where you are. Like, that's what I heard when you said that. You're like, wow, I'm walking around this beautiful campus. I'm interacting with my officers. I'm outside. This is the best job ever. A lot of the things that you're saying, like pinch me moments, I get to be here. That's a practice of gratitude. And I think that that's really important and something that's forgotten. We traditionally, our minds are wired to look for negative things, especially if you're in an environment where you're seeing a lot of negative things or traumatic things. And so to have a sense of gratitude for what you get to do is going to rewire your brain to start looking for more of those positive things. And that's going to create more longevity in your career and in your life. So I know you didn't say that, but that's what I heard in the things that you're doing for yourself.
But I think you can find it anywhere. This campus is absolutely beautiful, and it's a jewel of this nation. But I've done it every place that I've been. I ran across the Ohio River. There's a beautiful bridge in Louisville, Kentucky, walking bridge that goes over to Indiana. That I would run from my office and go out and take the time there. The mountains in the mountains in Phoenix that you could go out and enjoy. And then, running around the city in Baltimore and whether it's the Inner Harbor or Fells Point or some of the other neighborhoods, and just really getting to know and be part of the community that you're charged with protecting and keeping safe is something that you can find that wherever you are.
Yeah, I agree. When we and I talked offline, you had mentioned mental health, and I know that we've come a long way. Even in the last 8 years that I've been in this space, we've seen a lot of progress in the direction of wellness and organizational wellness, and we're still seeing suicide. And it's still happening. And I know that you mentioned to me that you've lost a lot of colleagues to suicide throughout your career. Why do you think that it's been so challenging for people to reach out for help. And what are some of the signs that people can look for to be able to offer help to their peers who may need it?
I think this is so poignant, that this conversation right now. I mean, we're getting ready to start September and Suicide Awareness Month. And it continues to be a problem or a challenge that we face in this profession. I think part of it is that trauma that we deal with every day, but it's never one thing. Yeah, I've lost way too many colleagues as I've gone through the years, but each one of them was unique and different. But what was not unique or different, there were signs that were present there. And the one that sticks out to me, I was a division commander at the time and had somebody that worked directly for me, a sergeant, that looking back after it occurred, all the signs were there. Yeah. And I was, a senior leader in the police department, had the experience. I felt like that I had the knowledge to be able to spot this, but it was so close to me, I didn't see it. Saw it immediately afterwards. And that was a moment in time where it just turned a switch for me that, we need to be better at this, and making sure that we're checking in with our people, and being able to get them the help and interventions that they need. I know that we can't solve every single one of them, but if we can save one person, that's one family that doesn't go through a challenge. Another instance that I had in my career was somebody that was probably on getting ready to be let go from the department because some of the behavior that he'd engaged in. But he's part of the department until he's not part of the department. We deserve as organizations to give people support the entire time, regardless, and even more in those times that they're struggling, whether it's, with employment, with potential, misconduct that has gone on, that misconduct, they need more mental health supports, not less. And we owe them that as an organization.
I really appreciate that you are talking about the symptoms of this, the signs and how they're all different. And I think that could make it challenging to kind of navigate when everyone is a little bit different, but to have the awareness and to ask those questions, especially if you're starting to see some of those symptoms. And what I mean by that is those behaviors are symptoms of something deeper, right? We know that they're going through something because of maybe the experiences that they've had in life or on the job, the different traumas and things that they've seen, maybe unique experiences that they're currently going through. And you start to see changes in behavior, right? You start to see maybe changes in performance, maybe unhealthy coping mechanisms, more sick time, things of that nature. Maybe use of force. There's certain things that you can kind of look for that start to stick out that are maybe abnormal to how they would typically act, on or off the job. And so I appreciate that you talked about, hey, there are signs. We just have to be aware enough to be able to recognize those things and ask those questions. And then on the back end, have the resources to be able to support them as much as we can so that they can get to the other side and be able to thrive. And that's the goal, right? It's to save lives. It's to make sure that you have the resources so that you can still have a long and successful career in life, even after. And my question to you is, what are some of maybe the organizational resources that you have found to be successful in helping people to get to the other side and still be able to have a successful career in life?
One of the things is a strong peer support team within the department, peers that have been through similar situations to be able to talk to can be extremely powerful. And then certainly the availability of mental health professionals is something that needs to be there, and there needs to be no stigma if somebody is willing to reach out and have those conversations. And, being able to, as a leader, say, hey, I check in as well. It is something that I've done, with officers that I've worked with, and make sure that they know that, hey, I got to check in too. Because this is a challenging career, and make sure that you have the availability and the ease of availability and the confidentiality around those mental health check-ins. So having those peer supports to help guide you that way, or be able to help you at a level that you don't even necessarily need. It's, when we talk about wellness, it's everything, and that mental health, but it's that social connection as well, that you have within the environment. We get very, very close because in this profession, because we are in life and death situations with each other. We count on each other every single day, and that builds really, really strong bonds. And it's a unique environment to public safety, and particularly law enforcement.
I truly believe that conversations can save lives. And my hope is that as we have conversations like this and we bring more awareness and education, then it does make things more normal and it breaks the stigma. Because I do think that when you're going through something hard, it can be isolating. You don't want people to think that you can't do your job, or that you're broken, or whatever these, ideas that we have in our head. But the more we can have conversations, like you said, and the more leadership can say, hey, like, I check in too. Like, this is so normal. And hey, like, talk to each other, because there's power in that. There's power in community and conversations. Do you think that having those conversations, being vulnerable as a leader and kind of setting that example, helps to build trust so that people are more likely to reach out for these things, and it helps to break that stigma?
That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's certainly the goal. I think people believe that you're being authentic with them. And, if that means being vulnerable and sharing what you truly believe, and it gets them to that place they need to be, it's where we need to go. And breaking down the stigma also is about having like real conversations. If you lose a colleague, and it's to suicide, I think being able to say that, at the beginning of my career, that wasn't the case. We didn't say somebody committed suicide. And, later in my career, when I was in leadership positions and we had those instances come up, when we put out that information to the department, we stated what it was, that the officer had committed suicide, and then began to have that conversation and sent out our teams within the department. And I can tell you that we had 2 or 3 other conversations that I believe were interventions, which was relayed to me that there were other people out there that had this on their mind, and being able to have this real authentic conversation, not talking around it, potentially saved other lives.
Yeah, I really like that you said authentic, because I think that's the key, right? And we all want to connect with each other in a real way. We all want to feel like we're in this thing of life together. And I think the more relatable things are and the more real things are, then I think you're right. I think the more real change and growth that can happen. I know we also talked a little bit about the importance of confidentiality. So when it comes to peer support, when it comes to these resources, how important do you think it is to have someone who is culturally competent, someone who is trained in this space, but also someone who's going to keep things confidential?
It's incredibly important, because all it takes is one break of that trust, and then all of a sudden nobody in the organization will trust what that is. The fear that I always hear is, that the front office, the chief's office, is going to find out about this, whether you're up for a promotion or another assignment, and you seeking help in these different areas could negatively impact your career. And for that point, I can tell you that I never breached that trust, and I don't think most law enforcement, senior level officials do either. But it's critically important, because if you do, it destroys the ability for people to go out and feel like they can truly reach out for the services that they may need.
Yeah. What do you think is the ultimate goal? And I know we talked a little bit about this offline, but we talked a little bit about post-traumatic growth. We talk a little bit about, getting to the end or on the other side of things and having a long and successful life and career. What is the ultimate goal for, getting resources and having these wellness programs in place?
I mean, it's a challenge in government. There's limited dollars. And, I've been able to leverage different things in different places. I was able to leverage foundations in a number of the cities that I've been in to be able to get wellness programs into the department that I didn't have a budget for within the regular confines of a governmental budget. So you have to think creatively to be able to do that. I did that in Phoenix, I did it in Baltimore. Louisville just opened a state-of-the-art wellness center that has been lauded around the country for all of the work that it's doing, and that was all done through foundation donations. So being focused on that, engaging your community to be able to find what are ways that we can creatively make sure that this is a priority, and then build in the ongoing costs of that to the ongoing budget. And that has to be a priority that you talk with whoever your funding source is, whether it's a city council or whoever it is, to make sure that they keep that at the top of their priority list, because, economies come and go. And, lots of times people see things as extra. And I would argue that wellness isn't extra. It's something that we have to continue to focus on if people are our most valuable resource.
I agree. And, I think through the conversations I've had throughout my career, a lot of the conversations are about that. It's like, oh, wellness is a nice to have, maybe not a have to have. And I really appreciate that you said, no, like it's a have to have. Our people are our most valuable assets, and we need to support them, and we need to think outside the box and find ways to be able to do that. And I know you said that wellness isn't like a neat little box or a check the box. It's really dynamic. There's a lot of moving parts to it. What are maybe the pillars or some of the things that you've integrated to create more of a dynamic wellness program that focuses on different areas of wellness?
I think first off, you have to have some sort of management team that is responsible for wellness. If you just let wellness be out there in this space and think it's going to take care of itself, I think you're fooling yourself. As a leader, you have to be able to support that and put some sort of structure in place to make sure that it truly is a priority. Show that it is a priority. But we're talking about physical, spiritual, financial, emotional, and mental health. All of those things touch so many different areas that we have to make sure that we have ability to support people that work for us in each of those areas. We talked about providing gyms and different physical spaces to be able to move our bodies and make that a priority. We've had chaplaincy programs in every organization that I've been a part of that are non-denominational, but people that would come and be able to foster that spiritual connection that I think we all need to get through this challenge we call life. We've brought in financial programs as well. That's a struggle that we all have every single day. We love work, but we work to provide for our families and for our livelihood. So doing that and making sure that we have a path forward for that, we put programs in place that have been very successful in all the different places that I've been. We've had programs for addiction. We all know that this line of work, I've known a lot of people that have had severe alcohol addiction problems, and we have programs in place that we are able to connect our members with that are fighting that addiction. So all of those things are absolutely incredible. And in this wellness space, it's really exciting right now. Outside of law enforcement, you see all the work that's being done in longevity, whether it's, you talk about saunas, you talk about cold plunging, you talk about meditation. It's super exciting time to be in this space.
Did you think when you started your career 31 years ago that there would be talks of saunas and cold plunges and like Zen rooms? I agree with you. I think that it is exciting and it's come a long way, especially, since you started. I know that there's been a lot of progress. And I really appreciate that you said that wellness is multifaceted, because I agree. And I also think it's all interconnected. When you don't feel good physically, you're not going to feel good mentally, and vice versa. If you're struggling financially, that's going to impact how you're feeling mentally. Maybe you have to work overtime, so you're more tired, you're more burnt out, you're not, with your family as much. And so it causes more issues in your home life. And so it is all very interconnected. And I think that it's important to focus on as many different pillars and aspects of wellness as you can to create the full picture. And I try to almost think of it as like puzzle pieces, like each pillar, like each resource is a puzzle piece. And as you start to lay them together, it creates the full picture of what wellness and longevity truly looks like. And you had mentioned something, you said it's hard, like life is hard. Your careers are extremely challenging and stressful. And I think that there has been this idea that's been pushed out there that it's almost inevitable that you're going to end up, quote unquote, broken at the end of this career. And everything that you said counters that. You don't have to end up like that at the end of this career. You can end up feeling like, of course, you're going to go through hard things, but you can put resources in place to offload those things and feel good at the end of a 20, 30, 40-year career. You don't have to end up broken. And I'm going to put that in quotes again. And one of the things that you said to me that really stuck with me was, it's not about the years you live, it's how well you live, and you want to live well. What does living well mean to you?
We just talked about all the pillars, being able to be good and healthy physically. And then, have that spiritual connection, being able to taking care of your mind, body, and spirit as you go through this career. So all of those things, when you get up in the morning, and where I am in my career, it is a little bit harder than it used to be. But, I just gratitude for each day that we have. The older that I get, being able to appreciate, have gratitude for everything that life has brought our way. So, those are the things that I look forward to. And it's not about a destination. I think we all get to a certain point in our career that, we want to get to retirement. I've retired once. It's not about a destination. It's about the process, and it's about, and that process really never ends. This is something that, yes, you reach milestones, but it's a milestone, and then you go to the next, whatever next, and it's about what you learn in that process.
Thank you. And I know that, you've obviously been doing this a long time. Wellness has been something that's been a priority for you, and you've been instrumental in implementing wellness programs at a number of different organizations. I talk to a lot of leaders across the country who are still in infancy stages, maybe don't know where to start or what to do or how to do it. Do you have any advice for other leaders out there that are just now trying to get something off the ground? Maybe something that you've learned along the way.
I would say, look at the area that you're challenged in your organization and start there. Look for an area that will have big impact, and then you can get momentum for. And with that, try to find partners to go along with you that are outside the policing world. Like I said, we've had foundations, and those foundations are able to go out in the community, and we're able to go out in the community and ask for additional resources, because that gets to be the big challenge. How are you going to start this program from nothing? I don't have anybody internally that I can do something. And we started years ago in Louisville with a part-time physical trainer that we employed. We were eventually able to get that person on payroll and part of the organization, but it wasn't anything that we were able to do immediately full time, and it just took time. So take those baby steps and look for the ones that have the most impact and be able to get that flywheel spinning. And then you can grow the program from there.
And my final question to you is for the younger generation. What words of wisdom would you share with someone who's earlier in their career? Maybe something that you wish you would have known or something that's helped you along the way.
So attitude is everything. And, you get to choose your perceptions. You get to choose the perceptions of what your day is. I wish I would have put all this together a little sooner in my career, but, through study and everything else, my perception is I look at everything, not necessarily frame it as good or bad. It is what we are dealing with today. We know we deal with good and bad. But if you frame it that way in your mind, you immediately go towards a negative if that's the way it's being framed, rather than this is what we're dealing with. Let's handle it and manage it today. And so, you get to choose your attitude, choose it every single day and choose it wisely, because it's going to set the destination of your career and truly your life.
I love that advice. Thank you so much, Chief Sullivan. It's really an honor to have the opportunity to talk to you today. That is all I have for you, but I want to give you the opportunity to take the floor if we missed anything, if you want to add any final words.
Yeah, I just want to thank all the law enforcement professionals across this entire country. The work you do sometimes goes unappreciated. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. When I end my career, I hope there's women and men that are willing to go out and put themselves on the line to keep everybody else safe. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
All right. Take care.